So, some people have asked me to talk about my story, and it's quite a complex story. But I would like to share part of my story and partially why I share the information I share and why I am eccentric the way I am, how I became this way, and some messages I got along the way that have led me to this path. My path started with meditation. I was just curious about I've always just had seen the pictures of people like meditating, sitting in the lotus posture and just like wondering they felt so peaceful. And I was still very much in the matrix world and I was like just curious, like I want to see if this meditation can calm me and make me stress-free. So I started meditating and the rest is history. I always talk about meditation because it's really the root of everything. It's the root of all yogas. It's the root of all spiritual practice. So meditation is the key to everything. After I started meditating, I began to experience deeper extrasensory abilities. Basically just developing more cities, more sensory perceptions, understanding things that just seemingly came to me out of thin air. Most of the knowledge that I share, the gnosis, I feel most people, when they're really sharing truth, it's just something that kind of comes from infinite intelligence, and it comes to you from the state of alignment and the state of meditation. So I began meditating, and then I had more curiosity about different spiritual practices. I would go to events, sound healings, and stuff like that. And one particular sound healing event that I went to, a lot of the times sound frequencies can really stir up old energies in you and just put you in really deep kind of hypnotic states. And I had gone to a sound healing like this a few years ago. And the night after that sound healing, I slept very deeply and had a very profound past life dream. And it was unlike any dream that I had ever had before, because my body was not me, and I was several different people, and it was very cyclical. So I saw myself first as a young Indian girl in an orphanage, and then it immediately fast forwarded and I was an older Indian woman running around, and there was like flooding and water, and then there was a car waiting with the door open. And also the first time in my dream there was like spirit guide voices. So the spirit voice was speaking to me. It was a male voice, and it's very audible and clear, which I also never had in my dreams before. And basically the voice was telling me like get in the car. It was kind of like guiding me because there was some sort of flood or something going on, and it was seemingly leading me to safety. So I get into the car and I'm driving a bit, and there's somehow flooding and people running around in panic. And then the voice tells me, look up at the sky, that's you. And it was very strange. So again, this is like a third person that they're showing me that I am. And in the sky was like a bubble, and there was a woman in the bubble, and she seemed to be drowning. So it was very bizarre. It was kind of like inversion, like on the ground there was flooding and, there's air. And then in the sky it's air, but then there's water in the bubble in the sky, kind of like yin and yang. Very strange. So when when the voice showed me this image of this dying woman, I freaked out, and it's sort of like I lost trust. And so I opened the car door and I ran as fast as I could into this kind of like weird shanty towns, and I ended up right back at the orphanage that had been my first life that I saw in the dream. And I recognized the woman who ran the orphanage, and I was like, let me in, like I was looking for some type of emergency shelter. So she opened and let me in, and then it was kind of like I was back feeling like stuck again in this same place. Like, it was very bizarre, like very just cyclical kind of nature. And then I woke up from that dream. So what happened after this dream is really what drove me a lot deeper into my spiritual practice, because it was just something that was very bizarre and unexplainable. I developed an interest in past lives, and I wanted to know, like, what was this? What are past lives? Like, how do I know more about this? So I went to this place called the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and this lady was giving a speech on stage, and she was basically talking about how she has put so many people under hypnosis, and they would see their past lives, and through that they would heal phobias, or they would tell stories of like corresponding scars, and they would see, like the scar had appeared, or the birthmark had appeared from this past life, and it all made sense. And people would tell stories of past lives and like fact check and find that these names and these things existed when logically they had no way of knowing. So just all really just mind-blowing stuff. So in this event, this lady had us do a group meditation, and we were partnering up for the meditation, and it was basically a past life regression meditation. And she said, you're going to answer a few questions about your partner, and the way that it works is you just trust your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, the way that it works is usually the first thing that comes to mind is the right thing. It's the right answer. So she said, you're going to be answering the questions about your partner. What year is it? What country? What year is it? What country is that person living in? What was their occupation? How did they die? And what was the lesson? So we're basically like standing like face to face with our palms facing the partner's palms. And she said that the palms are like the main energy centers that you can feel the person's energy. So we do this meditation, and it totally feels like you're making it up, which a lot of like the subconscious kind of work feels like. It's like, it's just faith, it's not logical. So I answer the questions for my partner, and I see him as a person in Italy, and I see that he was a politician, and I said, I think you died by being poisoned, and the lesson was you were going after too much power. And he was like, yeah, okay, like that resonates, I can see that. And then when he was telling me what he saw, for me, it was very strange, because the lady had said, pick a country. So he tells me, I don't know, if it's the blue lighting in this room or what, but I saw you as a mermaid, and you were swimming around with these two mermaid children, and the way that you died, it seemed almost like an accident, but it was like you were drowning, and it was like you drowned backwards. And it was very bizarre, because I had a friend with me, and I had told her my dream about the woman in the bubble drowning, and she immediately looked at me, and like we were just both baffled, just like, how did this random guy that I just met basically describe to me something that's very, very kind of unique of a vision, because that's what I saw. It was a woman in a bubble drowning in the sky. And yeah, it's just insane. There's no real logical meaning. I kept thinking about it. I'm like, there's no logical explanation to, like, I was trying to find, like, what is a statistical possibility that someone would just guess this. So that really deepened my faith in understanding that, like, there's so much beyond what we physically see. And it just led to more faith. And then just along my path, more and more things like that happened. And after that, I sat with the ayahuasca medicine for the first time a few months after that. And before I went on the ayahuasca journey, I wanted to know, like, what would come. And I love oracle cards, angel cards, tarot cards. So I pulled an oracle card and I asked, I'm like, what am I going to see on this journey? Like, what's it going to be about? So I pulled a card and it was from this fairy deck and it said sun, like S-O-N. And I was like kind of upset when I pulled it. I'm like, well, this is bullshit. Like, I don't have a sun. Like, why would I? I'm like, okay, so never mind. Like, whatever. I was just skeptical. I'm kind of like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. And then while I was, of course, it made sense later when I was on the medicine and I saw this image kind of like of a Madonna, like a woman holding a sun, kind of like the Mary Christ sort of image. And the ayahuasca is very mothering energy. So she basically was speaking to me and telling me that my energy, like her energy was working through me, and that the divine mother energy is healing the sun. So the divine mother energy is currently working on healing the masculine on this planet. To add more interesting synchronicity to it, at that time, they were playing during the journey, because they play Ikaros and hymns, and they were playing, I found out later, a song to Yemaya, the goddess of the ocean. And so the medicine told me to go downstairs, like in this house. It was a 2-story house. And I go downstairs and I enter this room, and the room is entirely decorated with like ocean theme. This is like the physical material room. And there was a painting on this room, in this room. It was like a children's room, and on the wall was painted like a mermaid with a sun. It was just so bizarre, like a mermaid with a sun. And it was the same way that this guy had described it, like kind of like it had kind of scaly skin, kind of like, not like how you see in the movies, but kind of like a creature type of look. So that was just super magical, and that's kind of how it works on the spiritual path, is you just see things like messages synchronize. And I suppose from seeing all of these images and from being guided with all these different visuals, that I realized that part of my purpose must have something to do with helping channel this divine mother healing energy that heals the masculine energy. And in a lot of spiritual texts, it's not really like what we think, like all feminine energy is in a spiritual lens viewed as divine mother energy, and all masculine energy is viewed spiritually as divine father energy, like what we talk about, like the Christ, like the Father. So it's just a way of saying like our pure energy, like the pure masculine, the pure feminine. So yeah, I just wanted to share that story since I want to be more personal and kind of share partially why I'm motivated to do what I do, as eccentric and strange that it is. I'm sure this story sounds really crazy, and if you think so, I don't blame you. I think it's really crazy as well, but it's what happened. If you guys have any stories about your spiritual awakening that you want to share, leave them in the comments. I would love to read them. Follow me on Instagram for more of my content. Join the Facebook group if you want to talk more about tantric topics. And like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.